All right, you ready to learn how to get some more leads?
Yeah.
Okay, so building your leads. So I have 3 keys. I'm going to give you guys some stuff to share. I got a few bonus tips, and we'll talk about building your list and really starting with even just a handful of leads, how to build that into a $2,000 a week, just like that, all right? So I think about that. By the way, if you're selling $2,000 a week in the summer, one, if you're in a college student, you're competing for an all-American scholarship. You're going to be at 30% very quickly within 5 weeks if you're starting at zero, and that means you're making over $600 a week if you're at 30% selling $2,000. And so I'll show you how that's done by doing phone time and setting 2 demos in phone time for the week.
Only 2?
So you go to office like a Monday night. Monday nights are going to be big this summer, by the way. We're going to have a big focus on Monday nights to hashtag 2 Demo Tuesdays, right, to start off the week strong. But by starting off, by just setting 2 demos for Tuesday, I'm going to show you how to roll that into a $2,000 a week, okay? So first, let's talk about getting more leads. So number 1 tip is have that be your number 1 focus of the presentation. Your number 1 goal of every presentation is to get to 10 to 15 people written down each time and have them be texted. That's more important than any sale. That's more important than anything. I remember hearing that for the first time back in, I think, 2000. And it was a guy who in 1999 did about 40 weeks in a row over $3,000, I believe it was. His name was George Ristad. Sold about 250 grand. Back in 1999, that wasn't normal. Like, that didn't happen. It was he was one of the top 5 people in the nation, and he worked at like a 9-to-5 job. And his goal every presentation was just to get 10 to 15 people written down. 10 to 15 people. Just get 10 to 15 people. And you get whatever you focus on, right? So if you spend 45 minutes to an hour focused on a sale, then you spend 2 minutes focused on getting recommendations. What do you think is going to happen, right? You're probably going to get a lot of sales and just a little bit of recommendations, right? So you should focus the whole time on getting recommendations, right? Sales are great, but they end there. Once you have a sale, it's done, right? Leads are the future to your business, right? I'm sure you could take FSMs, and I remember going back in summers. Josh, you can probably remember some of this, and Charlie, you can remember some of your big sales where you can probably trace thousands of dollars of sales back to one lead, right? Think of Marianne Odegaard. I think of Mary Kelly. At least 40 grand from my first summer came from her lead base, right? So leads can lead to a lot of big things. That's what you call leads, right? Top reps are great at getting leads. And you're going to learn how to sell more just by coming to team meetings, doing more demos, calling in, right? You'll naturally get better at the sales just from doing a lot of demos and especially calling in before and after getting those tips. But the way to really kill this job is to have more people than you could possibly ever call. Because if you have more people than you can possibly call, well, one is you're always going to have demos ahead of you. If you're terrible at the phone, it doesn't matter. You still have tons of people to call, and you'll get better at the phone really fast that way, right? Which will you also get better at sales. But you can also just show your best people and people who live in the area where you want to do demos because you have so many to choose from, right? So show those, you can focus on showing those recos from people who bought homemakers and signatures and ultimates. And you're like, oh, this is send your fret bot. They're like, oh, I'll take it too. And it's like demos are too easy when you get to that point. So the focus is leads, right? Can I get 10, 15 leads on there, right? So that leads to the second key. And the second key is talk about leads throughout the presentation. So through the whole presentation, Mrs. Jones, we have over 60 million customers. Almost all of them are personally recommended, just like you, right? A lot of you have stories about different things like, oh, this one lady, she loved the spatcher spreader because of this. Instead of just saying this one lady, Mary, add in one more step to it. Oh, this lady my mom recommended me to, Susie. She loves the spatcher spread because of blah, blah, blah. Oh, one of my friends recommended me to this lady, Mary, and she got the homemaker set because of da, 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 da. But you keep saying recommended and recommended and recommended. That's one of the lines at the beginning of the training manual. Hey, Mrs. Jones. Yeah, my main goal is basically that you like me and Cutco enough to recommend me to all your friends, right? Whatever that line is right at the very beginning of the demo. I know some of you have your own spin on it, but how many times can you talk about recommendations, right? When you're sharing your goals, talk about how many appointments you're trying to do. Not just what you're trying to sell, right? Not just, I'm trying to pay for college, Mrs. Jones. It's, oh, I'm working with Cutco. It helps me pay for college. My goal this summer is to do 100 appointments. All right? My goal this summer is to do 20 appointments a week, 10 appointments a week, 15 appointments a week, whatever it is. And then after you share your goals, you always talk about why you like the job. And the job's awesome, Mrs. Jones, because it's really flexible. I can work around my other job at the aviation place there. I can, do my football or sports or whatever training. I can spend time with family. And we only work with people who've been personally recommended to us. Because, going door to door would be kind of crazy, right? Yeah, so at the end of the demo, people just write down some people, give them a quick text. And that way everybody knows we're calling. So it makes it really easy. And now they're like, oh, okay, he's going to ask me for leads at the end. So now also, as they're going through the demo, they're not just thinking, ooh, that spatula spreader is really cool. They're thinking, ooh, I know who would really like that. And they're already going to be thinking of more recommendations as you go throughout the presentation. So the first step is have that be a focus. When you're walking up to the door, as you're in your car, before you get up there, okay, I'm going to get 10 to 15 leads. This lady's going to love me so much, she's just going to basically like send me her entire phone book in her cell phone. She's going to want me to see 100 people. She's going to beg me to see her friends. I'm going to say, Mrs. Jones, I don't know if I'm going to have time to see everybody you know, and she's going to beg me to see everybody she knows. That's the type of attitude you take when you go into the demo. The second key is that you drop recommendations throughout the presentation. You're talking about third-person stories of people recommended, why you like the job because you work with personal recommendations. That could be one of your favorite parts of the job is I get to meet all sorts of cool people because we're always getting recommended to future customers. And so I meet a lot of people that help. I've learned a lot about my major or whatever. And then the third step to getting a lot of leads is just give a lot of thought joggers. So remember, they just bought something, right? They should have, right? Every once in a while in a blue moon, you might have no sale, but you should sell almost every time, right? That's another talk. But they're excited. They just bought something. You got to shift their focus now to thinking of how many people they could help you out and want to see Cutco, right? So here's some thought joggers. I'm going to go fast, so you want to write quickly. Later, I can give you the notes if you don't get all of them, but try to get as many as you can. So the first thing is just say, hey, Betty, not just people who would buy. And I like to tell them, I say, but you'd be surprised of who our best customers are. Sometimes you never know, right? So if they live in a house and they eat food, they're good. So I want to cast a wide net. I don't want them thinking just this person or that person. I want them thinking everybody. So one of the keys while you're giving thought joggers, even though I'm going to list these off fast, don't list them off fast because then they start thinking of only the people that do they clump them together. Who do I know that likes to entertain, barbecue, fish, and lives over here? And I don't know anybody that does all of those things. So you give them one, and you let them marinate. You let them write a couple, and as they slow, then you throw out another one. And then that also delays the amount of time that you're polishing really slowly, right? Or you're writing up the paperwork slowly if it's a virtual demo, and gives them more time to be writing. Okay, so here's some good ones. Neighbors. Not just neighbors, but be specific, right? Hey, Mrs. Jones, who lives on that house on the corner? You know the big brick one? Do you know who lives there? Oh, that was one of my favorite parts of the job. I get to see really cool places. I remember doing a service call when I was a district manager in 2007. And we're up on the hill, there's this big cliff, and you see this big hill. It's like this massive glass house. And I was like, do you know who lives in that big glass house? And she's like, no, I don't. But you know what? I think, and she called her daughter in there. She's like, who lives up there? Who the kids are like, oh, it's so-and-so, their parents. And I'm like, do you guys know them? She's like, no. I'm like, do you know anybody who would know them? They're like, oh, actually, you know what? I think so-and-so does. Boom. They put that down as a referral, right? Just because I was giving them, I gave all the leads to an AM. I was field trained. I was just field trained to do service call, right? I just gave the leads away. But yeah, that's ask for specific houses, right? Hey, who has that WSU flag? I love WSU. That's where my parents went, right? Or I'm a UW or whatever, right? So people from work, who do they know from their work, right? Who are their kids' best friends' parents? Mr. Jones, who are your kids' best friends' parents? Those are always fun because then we get to share stories about the kids and stuff, right? Mrs. Jones' brothers and sisters. And if you don't like your little brother, Mrs. Jones, I can give him a hard time if you want me to, right? Have some fun with it. Who do you know that drives a minivan or SUV? Right? Because if you have a minivan, I don't know anybody that drives a minivan that doesn't have what? Kids, right? If they have kids, they're going to use Cutco, right? And if they have an SUV, they probably have kids. And if they don't, they can afford Cutco either way, right? Who likes to entertain? I'm thinking if somebody they're like, this person loves to entertain, I'm thinking 2 stainless steel flatware settings. I'm thinking about doubling my career sales on one demo, is what I'm trying to think of, right? $3,000 order, $4,000 order. If you sell 2 flatware chests and a set with that, boom, $4,000 order, right? Who likes to barbecue? It's summer now, barbecue, right? People like to eat outside, use a barbecue set. Instead of buying a barbecue set, what's the best way to get a barbecue set?
For free.
Yeah, buy a set, I'll give you a barbecue set for free. Buy the homemaker, buy a signature set, I'll throw in the barbecue set for free. Oh, do you like the table knives or do you like the steak knives for the barbecues, Mrs. Jones? Barbecue season, steak knives, bigger set time, right? Who always has the newest toy? Mrs. Jones, who always has the newest toy? How about parents on the kids' sports teams? Kids' sports rosters are huge, right? They have to buy at least a trimmer because they got to cut up all the orange slices and stuff, right? Who has the nicest TV? You know, Mrs. Jones. Who has the nicest kitchen? And in the kitchen, you can also ask, do you know anybody that has a Viking range? has a Viking Range of the like $6,000 to $7,000 stoves, the little bit oversized big gas burner ones. Do you know about anybody that has a Sub-Zero fit refrigerator? Ask for the big. For those are the $4,000 to $7,000 refrigerators, right? Who's really funny, Mrs. Jones? I need to practice jokes, and I need to get some new jokes for my demo. Who does this profession that I want to do? Whatever profession or field you're interested in going, or even if you don't want to do it, but something you're interested in. Who you know loves to travel, right? If I was doing demos right now, I'd ask who likes to travel and who likes to scuba dive and who has toddlers. So those are the things that I'm interested in doing right now, or like being a good dad and stuff like that. So I'd ask who else is those, right? Who's a real estate agent? Do real estate agents know quite a few people? Yeah. Yes, right? And their schedules are a little hectic, but they're like yours. They can do them. You know, they can do appointments throughout the day and stuff. They're good people to know, right? Anybody who owns their own business, because you own your own business, right? You're 1099, right? So you own your own business. Get to know other business owners, right? That one, they'll respect that what you do, right? But also, those are good people to know and learn from. Okay? But when you're giving thought joggers, give them a reason why that specific thought jogger would be good for you. Oh, because I live close to there. Oh, because I love seeing cool houses. Oh, because that's what I'm studying or that's what I'm interested in, right? Oh, because I used to play baseball, or because I know people that went to that college, or oh, that's where I went to high school or whatever, right? So make it give them an idea, then tie it in logically of why they should recommend you to those types of people, right? Location, geography is a great one. So those are the three main keys. Have it be your number one goal to get 10 to 15 recommendations. Talk about leads throughout the demo. Give lots of thought joggers, right? And then here's some bonus tips, okay? Bonus tip, always put a star by 5, smiley face by 10. And then ask them to get to the next level. Those don't do anything just by being there, but you say, oh, you're almost here. Can you get to there? Ask them to get to the next level. Another one, one of my favorite ones I would do is, Mrs. Jones, I'm competing with my friend blank, right? Whatever rep you want. Whoever gets the most names wins. Like, we always have a bet, right? Whoever gets the most names on the demo, loser has to buy lunch or a cookie at Metropolitan Market. Have you ever had the cookie at Metropolitan Market, Mrs. Jones? They're amazing. So loser has to buy one, right? And, set a bet with one of the buddies, right? And I used to call reps all the time. We used to do sales bets even, right? Demo for demo. One demo, who could sell more? I got a funny story for that later, right? Here's a great one. Can you think of just one more? And then see how many times you can use that on the same demo. Can you just one more your way to I think my record was 7, right? I think I was at 4. And I'm like, oh, 4, thanks so much, Mrs. Jones. Can you think of one more? And she's like, okay, let me say 5. I'm like, oh, Susie, let me tell you, is she your sister? Oh, that's awesome. Like, can you think of one more? And then finally, they're 11, no more. I got to the smiley face, done. But they were laughing and smiling the whole way, right? And so as long as you're making it fun, yeah, you got to do that one with a big smile on your face. You can't say one more, Mrs. Jones. I need you to do one more. One more, right? So make it fun, like Will Ferrell. Fill it up again, right? Here's one of my favorites. Is the record is blank. You're almost there. Do you think you could beat it? So you first start with your record. What's your record? Is it 17? Is it 20? Is it 148? Right? If 148 is a little unrealistic, Charlie can do a good job of creating this culture in the summer, and Josh, you can do this for your office, of, hey, what's the record in the office for the week? Who's gotten the most recommendations this week? Right? Oh, the record for this week, Mrs. Jones, is only 13. You're already at 12. You think you could beat it? The record this week's 25. That's a great one where you can, it's usually going to be in the teens to 20s for an average week. But if you really work this, it could get to where it's 40 or 70 or whatever. So then you just use the record for the summer, the record for the month or whatever. But give them a record to shoot for, okay? So those are tips on leads. Now, I want to give you a couple tips on building your names list. Right? So if you're not, you don't have a ton of people to call right now, here's a couple quick tips to do. Number one is you just got to use your resources, right? So go back through your training manual, go back to page 2021, find all the leads. There's so many people on your initial names list who you were supposed to call back in a week, a year ago, right? Or 3 years ago, or however long ago it was, so there's a good start. Then go back through your lead notebook and just go page by page. Did you call that person? Now, I used to do this in the summer when I'd come back home. I hadn't called on those people for all the school year. So I would call back the person who recommended them just to check in, right? Once I was qualified to do service calls, I'd even offer a service call if it was a good customer. I could go touch up their stuff and sharpen them up and say, hey, by the way, last summer I never was able to get a hold of so-and-so. Is it cool if I give them a call? I kind of had to run off to school before I got time to call them. They're like, yeah, sure, that's fine. That way when you call them, you can say, I just talked to so-and-so instead of I talked to him last year, right? And it freshens the lead up a little bit. So you have your initial list, you have your lead notebook, then literally just go through your cell phone. Are they HM3 or are their parents HM3? And then put them down. And if you're not sure which phone approach to use, call your manager, right? Call Charlie, call me, Josh, and ask, what approach should I use? Is that an initial approach? Is that a referral approach? Is it an acquaintance approach? We have an approach for everything, right? We have an approach for a directory one, which is a great one to use. If you have a school directory or a church directory, we have an approach for that. I remember a kid sitting there looking at the O-Day of Southern California, Modern Day, and he's looking at his directory and he's like, he's just scared to call. And I'm like, who's the scariest lady on here? He's like, her. It's like, she freaks me out. Like, I know her son, and like, she's terrifying. And I'm like, let me see her phone really quick. And he's like, okay. And he gave me his phone. I dialed her number, and then handed him. And he's like, he set up the demo. He ended up selling a galley set. Oh, wow. Right? But he would have never called that lady if I didn't like force him on it. But what happened is after that point, I'm like, it can't get any worse. She was the scariest person. She set up a demo. And so then he called through, used our directory approach, and he set up a whole ton of demos. Kid made it to Vegas that summer. Derek Ronquillo, right? And then, Facebook, any social media one, same thing, right? So build your list. How much can you build for your initial call list? And it's always good to keep refreshing that because there's always people you were supposed to call back that slip through the cracks that you want to keep on that list to call. So that's the first one, to build your list. Second one is efficient phone time. Call your leads immediately. Don't let them sit for a day or a week. Pretend each lead is like an ice cream cone out in the sun. If you let it sit, would you get an ice cream cone, sit out in the sun for 10, 15 minutes before you took a bite? No way, but that's what reps do with leads all the time. They're like, oh, I have this wonderful ice cream. I'm going to go sit in the sun for a week before I go in. And then I'm going to wonder why my ice cream doesn't taste very good and it's all soupy because it's been sitting there for a week, right? The raccoon's getting in and all sorts of stuff. It's terrible now, right? Right? But you gotta eat your ice cream quick. You got to call your leads fast. Make 5 calls before and 5 calls after every demo. That is really the key, and I'll show you just in a second how that works. But 5 calls before and 5 calls after every demo. And then when you're setting up those appointments, you only give that 2-day window. If I'm setting up appointments tonight, it's Wednesday, I'm saying I need to do 5 before Friday. Say before that second day. So that way they know you're really talking about tomorrow. There might be a chance you could do it on Friday, right? But you really are talking about tomorrow. Because if you say I need to do it by this time, they're always going to pick as far back as possible. If it's Monday and you say I need to do 10 appointments by the end of the week, they'll say, cool, call me at the end of the week. Or how about Sunday? Right? And they'll always go for the last day, just like you write your papers 2 hours before they're due, right? So to build your list, use your resources, efficient phone time, and then the last tip for building your names list right now is front load each week. So this is why hashtag 2Demo Tuesdays is so important. And I remember Kendall Smith sold $500,000 while he was a college student, won 10 All-American scholarships. The longest string was 42 weeks in a row, over 1,000. A full-time student during the summer as well, so it wasn't just full-time off. He was selling around school all the time. But he would always do 2 demos on Tuesday, right? He was usually at 1,000 by the team meeting by Wednesday, between Monday and Tuesday sales before we had Rolo there. So I want to show you how that works. So you come into the office on Monday night, right? You use that 2-day window. You're looking at your big resource list you built. And then what you do is you set up 2 demos for Tuesday, right? Now from those 2 demos on Tuesday, you call those leads right away, right? So you make 5 calls before the demo, you make 5 calls after. Who are you calling with those 5 calls after? The leads you just got, because they're fresh. You're calling them right away, right? So if I made 5 calls before and 5 calls after on 2 demos, I just made 20 calls. Do you think on 20 calls, and 10 of those at least being fresh leads, right? If I'm averaging 5 each time, right? Do you think I could set at least 2 demos? Yeah, so then let's say I set one for Wednesday and one for Thursday. And then Wednesday I go out and I do 5 calls before, 5 calls after, right? And I set up one for Thursday, all right? And then Thursday I do 2 demos, 5 calls before, 5 after. So I set up one for Friday and one for Saturday. Friday I do that demo, I set up one more. Saturday I do my call 5 before, 5 after. I set up 2 demos, 1, 2. Sunday I do my 5 calls before, I set up 1. Then Monday I set up my 5. I probably set 2 for the week, right? You add all this up. That's 3, 6, 9, 11. 11. You're gonna sell 7 sales. 300. That's 2,100 CPO. How many demos did you set up from the off? You set up 2 demos on a Monday night, right? Now, right, you want to see how those guys are selling 3, 4, 5 grand? Well, they do this but then they also, come in Wednesday night and set up a couple more demos before the team meeting, right? They come into a Saturday workshop and they set up a couple more, but they keep doing this and they just fuel the fire. But if you're replacing a demo every time you do it, there you go, right? You don't have to do much phone time at all. You're just calling the leads right when you get them. And that's how you sell $2,000 every single week, just by making sure you have hashtag 2Demo Tuesdays, right? Which I want that to be a thing. 2Demo Tuesdays across the whole division, right? All right, that's it, right? So build your resource list, right? Use efficient phone time, right? Follow your approach, get out your schedule in front of you. Always offer 2 times within that 2-day window, right? And then front load each week so you can use the leads you immediately get to do demos the rest of the week and build that lead base. But no matter where you're at right now, if you use those initial tips of having it be your goal of getting 10 to 15, talking about leads throughout the demo, and then giving lots of thought joggers, you could go from having a list of 10 names right now, maybe even less, maybe only 5 to 10 people to call, to by next week, from 1 week, you could literally have 70 to 100 people to call, right? And then from that point, you do it again. And within 3 weeks, you could be at the point where you're not going to get everybody. It's like, I have 250 people called. There's no way I'm going to be able to get a hold of all these people in the next month, right? And you're going to keep growing it throughout the summer. And that's where you just keep whittling it down to your best people you're going to call. I don't drive more than 10 minutes to a demo because I have enough people I can do that, right? That's awesome. That's where you want to be. Cool? So that's how you get a lot of leads. That's how you build your lead base.